Coming up in NBN News, Scott Morrison's $1 million pledge towards a green energy future in the Hunter. COVID restrictions ease further in New South Wales. Singapore opens to Australia. And at what age is daily drinking good for you? That's next.
Tonight, climate campaign. The Prime Minister hits the Hunter, spruiking clean energy.
More restrictions lifted in New South Wales as the vax rate edges closer to 90%.
High case numbers again for mid-coast, but a slight drop further north.
Cracks in the system. The renewed debate about buying trams and ferries overseas.
And Tim Sheens jets in to sort out a mess at the Tigers.
This is NBN News.
Good evening. The Prime Minister has pushed the button on his election campaign, hitting the hustings in the Hunter.
His visit to the region came with a promise to transform it into a hydrogen powerhouse, with a reassurance of new jobs for coal country.
A noisy reminder of the region's coal reality. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
Live now to Jane Goldsmith in the newsroom. And Jane, the Prime Minister is expected to return.
Yes, Paul, Scott Morrison is expected back in the Hunter before Christmas. In fact, he's going to be visiting several times before the federal election, which is being vacated by Joel Fitzgibbon.
Thanks, Jane. To the COVID situation now, and there were 40 new cases in the Hunter, New England today, mid-coast seeing the most with 13. Further north in Port Macquarie, numbers seem to be stabilising after a weekend surge. Reporter Mia Taekwon is there for us. Mia, the mid-north coast was back in single digits today.
That's right, Paul. 6 infections were recorded across the local health district, 5 in the Hastings and just 1 in Kempsey. Now, that's a significant drop considering Port Macquarie alone recorded 43 cases on the weekend. Meanwhile, Mid-Coast has seen a worrying spike. Of the 13 cases you mentioned, 9 were in Taree and 1 each in Boodawah, Diamond Beach, Old Bar and Tuncurry.
And what we're seeing is that the virus is finding all of the immunity gaps. People who are unvaccinated, the virus is unrelenting. It will find you.
Meanwhile, Beechwood Public and Great Lakes College Tuncurry campus were closed today for deep cleaning after members of the school community tested positive. Paul.
Thanks, Mia.
Joy today across New South Wales as a wave of COVID restrictions were eased, with the Premier calling it a momentous step in our return to normal life. And while vaccinations have provided us the freedom, there were shocking numbers today which showed just how many people have died because they hadn't been jabbed.
For the soon-to-be father of 7, the Premier was right at home. Damien Ryan, NBN News.
The state's former police minister today told a court he was nicknamed Goldilocks after a bizarre sleepwalking incident as a teenager. Troy Grant took the stand at his father Ken's trial over an alleged hit and run in the Hunter.
Troy Grant has always stood by his father and today broke his public silence. Tyson Cottrell, NBN News.
The Hunter's COVID numbers are stabilising, the health district attributing it to a strengthening vaccination coverage. Today's easing of restrictions also creating a new sense of normal.
Lunchtime at Lambton's St John's Catholic Primary.
Next year.
And Madison Scott joins us live now from a pub in Cooks Hill. Maddie, venues are tonight welcoming back double the number of patrons.
Tash, it's tonight trivia night at the Delaney Hotel here. Patrons are just starting to trickle in off Derby Street, and I can tell you the drinks taste better standing up. Now, under the new 2-person per square metre rule, the Delaney Hotel can welcome up to 480 patrons from tonight, but it's a far cry from the usual pre-COVID limit of 999. A small step forward tonight for hospitality as Newcastle nears the 90% vaccination rate milestone, but the likes of Port Stephens and Maitland have skyrocketed above 95%. Tash?
Thanks, Maddie.
Prison authorities say inmates and the community will benefit from the latest multi-million-dollar expansion of Cessnock Jail. Along with upgrades to living areas, there are new opportunities to prepare prisoners for life in the outside world.
A $110 million project, years in the making. Lauren Kemp, NBN News.
A quick look at the weather in your region today.
You're watching NBN News. Still ahead, rapper Travis Scott speaks publicly for the first time about the deaths at his concert.
Travel to Singapore back on for fully vaxxed Australians.
And why a beer or a wine a day could help keep the doctor away.
Dominic Perrottet has been accused of betraying New South Wales workers in favour of buying cheap and nasty trams, trains and ferries from overseas. Cracks on Sydney's inner west light rail trams are much worse than first thought. Spanish engineers are now flying to Australia to try and fix the fleet.
A major slab of Sydney's public transport network out of action for 18 months and a new transport minister inspecting the damage. Going to be a long and costly 18 months.
Chris O'Keefe, NBN News.
Police are still searching for two men over the fatal shooting of David King at Saltash, while today two others had their cases heard in court. 27-year-old Tyson Stamp, who's charged with murder, appeared via video link from isolation in prison after testing positive to COVID, while 39-year-old Adam Garvey, accused of being an accessory after the fact to murder, didn't apply for bail. 45-year-old Mr King was shot while driving his car in August before crashing into a tree. Both cases will return to court next year. And more good news on the travel front. The United States has lifted its ban on international visitors. Non-citizens must show proof they are fully vaccinated and have proof of a negative test less than 3 days old. Under 18s are exempt but must still show proof of a negative test.
A predictable and preventable tragedy. That's how the festival crush that left 8 people dead is being described in a Texas lawsuit. Legal action is already underway against Travis Scott, as it's revealed the rapper has been convicted twice for inciting chaos at his concerts.
Ribbons to remember a schoolmate. 14-year-old John Hilgett was the youngest killed at Travis Scott's Astro World Festival in Hughes.
Vital flights between Sydney and Lord Howe Island are set to continue, with the New South Wales Government extending the existing QantasLink licence for another 3 years. The service is crucial for keeping the island's 350 residents connected to the mainland and supporting the tourism industry. Around 16,000 Australian and international visitors travel to the World Heritage listed island each year. The licence extension will come into effect from March.
Gavin Morris joins us now with a quick look at our weather.
And Gav, some big rainfall totals overnight.
Yes, there certainly was. We saw some extraordinary numbers, particularly around Tamworth, just west of, up to 130 millimetres. But for now, we've got this lovely break. That big wet weather system has cleared. There is another on its way, but we've got this lovely break that will be joining us throughout tomorrow. So we've got some beautiful conditions that are going to settle in right across the entire region. Still going to be humid, a little bit of cloud, some storms around the Dorrigo Plateau towards the Clarence and potentially Coffs and north of the Guida Highway. But a closer look at all of your local details a little later in the bulletin.
Thank you, Gav. Coming up next, the moment a truck full of fireworks became a fireball.
Also ahead, a close shave of the welcome kind for Chinese astronauts.
And the exhibition offering a look back at a strange age in motoring. It's a discussion that's been brewing on and off for years. Is a daily beer or glass of wine good or bad for your health? The results of the latest study are worth toasting.
At the local bowling club, the bowls are hot.
Come on.
And the beers are ice cold.
Really hit the spot, yeah.
The richest man in the world, Elon Musk, has taken an expensive gamble on Twitter, conducting a poll on whether to sell 10% of his Tesla shares. The billionaire said he would abide by the poll's decision whatever the result, which was a resounding yes. The share portion worth $28 billion. The stunt appears to be in response to a push for a billionaire's tax in the US.
The Westpac Rescue Helicopter Team is preparing for one of its busiest summers yet as communities across northern New South Wales make the most of newfound freedoms and interstate travellers begin exploring the regions again. The organisation today launching a fundraising appeal after regular events and community support initiatives were cancelled due to COVID.
Our job is to be there 24/7 with the wonderful intensive care paramedics and the doctors and nurses that we utilise out of the northern New South Wales hospital systems.
The rescue chopper is a vital link in the state's healthcare chain, with bases at Belmont, Tamworth and Lismore, providing support to 1.5 million people. They were funny little things: small engines, small wheels and a cramped driver's seat. But the microcars of the mid-20th century have now become a collector's item. An exhibition at Sydney's Powerhouse Museum is giving us a wonderful look back at a peculiar age in motoring.
They would rise from the rubble of World War II.
They'd solve all our parking problems these
I'd like
days.
one.
Yeah.
We should order some.
Yeah, indeed. Over to sport now with Mitch Hughes.
And Mitch, Tim Sheens has some work to do.
And that is an understatement. Thanks, team. The Tigers' great returns to try and turn the club around. And Ash Barty with all eyes on the Australian Open. Tim Sheens has arrived home to put some polish on the struggling West Tigers. Having spent the past 5 years coaching in England, Sheens now faces a huge challenge, resurrecting the club he led to the 2005 Premiership.
Touching down at Sydney Airport, Tim Sheens back in Australia and the NRL.
Despite all her sporting achievements, Ash Barty says she has one goal left, an Australian Open singles title. The reigning world #1 stands by her decision to leave the women's tour early to freshen up for the massive summer.
Ash Barty has the world #1 ranking, 2 Grand Slam trophies.
After the break, a costly turn 1 tangle for Daniel Ricciardo. And Jamie Whincup claims a wet and wild night race in the supercars. Driving a supercar at night is tricky enough. Throw in torrential rain and there was bound to be trouble. Newcastle has one goal when the Matildas play the US on the 30th of November, a sellout at McDonald Jones Stadium. And it could be easier than we think. With confirmation today, registered junior footballers will only have to pay $5 to attend with an adult.
Newcastle broke the Matildas' attendance record in 2017.
Water polo now, and the Hunter Hurricanes have made the perfect start to the Super League, downing powerhouse club Sydney University at the weekend. Let's hope for some nice weather when they go outdoors.
That'd be good, wouldn't it?
One.
Thank you, Mitch.
Thanks, Mitch. Stay with us. Gav's coming up next with all your local weather details.
This report brought to you by AMP. Investing solutions in banking, super, retirement and advice.
Gav is here now with the weather.
And Gav, it's shaping into a very interesting November.
Certainly is. I think we're going to get a little bit of everything this month. We already have, really. First of all, though, let's take a look at this evening's weather photo. It is cloud lovers' paradise right across northern New South Wales and southern Queensland at the moment. It's a fabulous roll cloud. A great shot from Brett Nixon. Over the past 24 hours, we've seen some pretty big rain totals. Maitland, you topped the list with 54 millimetres locally. We've had some massive numbers here right throughout the northwest, just west of Tamworth. 70 to 130 millimetres of rain came down over the past 24 hours, and they've seen some flooding there locally. It's the first. I'm sure we're going to see numerous areas see some form of flooding. At the moment on the satellite, there goes that weather system. That one is moving out to sea. There's the next one, but we've got this in between again. We've got one of these lovely little gaps that will be joining joining us, and we certainly need to make the most of those gaps like we had on Saturday. Now, a little lows forming, that's going to move offshore. All of the instability moves to Queensland and right throughout central Australia. There's going to be some action, more big storms and heavy downpours as well. So the Alice storms in the forecast along with Darwin. In the west, Perth looking at tops of about 23 degrees. Throughout the southeast, there's a little bit of a break. Melbourne had its big day on Saturday of storms and flooding rain. Showers in between Sydney and Brisbane. Looking at the local radar and temperatures reached today, little storm cells there have been passing through, clipping parts mostly of the lower Hunter. Topping out in the mid to high 20s today throughout the upper reaches of the valley. A little bit cooler on the coast because we had a little southerly blow in today, which was nice. We've had those northerlies that have been ongoing for so long. Now the southerly will be with us again throughout tomorrow. That'll be shifting around to the east-northeast by the end of the day and spilling right across the entire region. So overall, that is going to help maintain the cloud cover. Again, there's the risk of showers and storms in the forecast. The Bureau have to put them there because there is always the possibility of. It's just a small margin that will see the potential storm cell isolated form throughout tomorrow, but it has to go in. The big day again will be later in the week, in the second half. But for tomorrow, generally fine. Again, we'll see the mid-20s unfold for most. A little bit cooler along the coast with that southeasterly. There may be just a little small cell, a small little shower cell or storm cell flare up throughout tomorrow, but generally we're going to see temperatures top out around about 27 degrees, 28 for the upper Hunter, but not looking too bad. Taking a look at conditions out on the water, still a little bit of swell hanging in there, about 1.5 metres for surfers, but again a little bit wind affected with those onshores for the day. Taking a look at the tides tomorrow, about 5 to 6 in the morning, you've got the low working to the high, 12:30, sun to rise 5:46 and down again at 7:28, and a lovely little crescent moon which is waxing at the moment. As we look at the forecast, these are the days to take, we'll make the most of. Take that little window of opportunity, enjoy it because the wet weather closing back in significantly Thursday, Friday. Strong westerly winds on Saturday, but it looks like it's going to all clear in time for the weekend, so good news. Very similar story for the upper Hunter. We may have some localised flash flooding. We may see some very nasty isolated cells about. Taking a look at the Central Coast, similar theme, basically cloud showers building for the second half of the week. What about surfers? Well, we've had a little bit of swell roll on through. That water temperature has been all over the shop. Today's southerly and tomorrow's southerly should help warm it back up again because we had a cold water upwelling. But very small waves are expected right across the entire region yet again. And a little messy and bumpy with those onshores for another day.
Thank you, Gav.
Thank you.
And that's NBN News on this Monday, the first bulletin from our new base in Newcastle.
It's pretty nice, isn't it? From all the team, good night.
Good night.